now so our people who are joining can see us. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Good evening, maybe. I don't know. Good overnight. I'm here. I'm Eric, the head of revenue here at Wynter. I'm here with Alex Birkett. I'm going to introduce Alex in a minute. We just want to give people a few seconds to join because, as you know, you're getting here from your previous meeting or you're finishing up talking to ChatGPT to get it to write your next series of blog posts. Who knows what? We will get started in the next minute or two. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to see you, Eric. It's been a minute.
It's good to see you too. I'm excited to see you in person again. It's been a long time.
We just got our tickets to Spring. So
yeah, I know. I saw you come in. And,
super excited for that.
Slack. I'm very excited.
It's the best conference.
It's one of the best. I mean, it depends what you're into. Some people are into electronic music. They want to go to Ultra. Some people are into B2B SaaS. They want to come to Spring.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I qualitatively put those into two different buckets, but I mean, in terms of business conferences, you guys are.
You might, but it is the Wynter Music Conference. That's what it used to be, right? WMC. It was like a bunch of DJ nerds talking about music, and now we have a bunch of B2B SaaS nerds talking about marketing, product marketing.
Very true.
So it's kind of the same thing. Humble beginnings, but before you know it, Spring will be maybe will displace South by Southwest. People are like, going to South by? Like, no, I'm going to Spring.
It is very close, like timeline-wise, too. I mean, you guys could start to overlap and compete, pull people away.
Yeah, we're thinking of acquiring the South by Southwest. You know, just like a subtle move by Wynter. We're just going to take it.
I would. South by is a legacy brand.
It's getting there, right? It's outdated.
Yeah, it's not cool anymore.
Awesome. Well, we've got getting close to well over 100 people close to. So let's get started. As I mentioned, for you, listen to our banter. My name is Eric McKinnon. I'm the head of revenue here at Wynter. I'm pleased to introduce Alex Birkett, who's the co-founder at Omniscient. Alex has a long history in B2B marketing, as we were just joking about. He comes from CXL way back in the day, which is a sister brand here to us at Wynter. Conversion XL was the original name. So yeah, Alex was at CXL many years ago. Also at HubSpot, if I recall correctly. You were at HubSpot for a while.
Many years.
Yeah, and now co-founder at Omniscient. So Alex is here to take us through our topic today, winning with content in the age of AI. So as I'm sure you can all appreciate, since you're here, AI is changing how we do content marketing very quickly. And it's not exactly easy to figure out which tactic is going to help to saturate your brand and make sure that you're winning across the search engine result pages, the SERPs. So I'm going to stop babbling. I'm going to turn it over to Alex, and I will be back to facilitate the Q&A when he's finished his presentation. If you have questions, please go ahead and ask them in the chat or use the Q&A box, and I'll make sure that we prioritize those and get them ready for when we have questions after Alex is finished speaking. So I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
All right. Sounds good. I'm going to try to keep this in tactical, practical fashion and not rant too much. A lot of noise and a lot of takes out there in the AI era. Let's see if I can pop over here. All right, cool. So the topic today is winning with content in the age of AI, specifically 5 high leverage tactics that continue to drive revenue that may have worked before, but work extra well now and cause you to stand out from the noise, from the saturation, from the abundance of information overload and choices on the market. Co-founder at Omniscient, used to work at HubSpot. I used to work at CXL, so I've seen a lot of different angles of content throughout the years. And the takeaway is really that we're not in 2018 anymore. Things have changed. There was a certain era where content, specifically SEO-driven content, was a wonderful arbitrage opportunity. You could stack on a bunch of different informational top-of-funnel blog posts, watch that traffic chart go up and to the right, and just continue layering it on with seemingly no end in sight. And for many, many reasons, that's not necessarily the case anymore. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're kind of in the zeitgeist, in the know, you've probably seen this chart. This went ballistic last week. This was all over the place. This is HubSpot's blog traffic, which is very interesting for me to see. It's also emblematic of many content-heavy websites, right? They went from roughly 7.5 million estimated traffic in Ahrefs to a quick and steep decline to about 2 million or under. A lot of that, frankly, was informational, top-of-funnel, irrelevant topics like the famous shrug emoji, how to make a shrug emoji article, famous quotes, stuff like that. So there's a lot of debate right now whether that traffic was relevant, whether it was driving revenue. I'm not here to come up with hot takes or analyses. Essentially, I know that HubSpot has one of the smartest SEO teams in B2B, and this was largely the playbook that a lot of MarTech and SaaS companies had built over the years. And quite frankly, the shore is washing out, the tide is washing out, and we're seeing that it actually is not effective. It may not have been effective before, but now it's very clear in the charts that it's not effective. Why? Essentially, Google is not the only player in town anymore. Especially in tech-forward spaces, we're seeing a proliferation of different ways of information discovery and information retrieval, how we're interacting with content and products, including but not limited to Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, all the AI tools. Also different platforms, Reddit and Quora are rising to prominence right now, specifically in the SERPs. You've got YouTube, TikTok, who knows, right? What's going on with that? And then, of course, AI overviews, which are kind of a natural extension of quick answers and feature snippets, which were already taking away a lot of top of the funnel queries. And content creation itself has sort of been democratized, at least mid-level content, mediocre content. Almost anybody can kind of chain together a couple prompts and put together a blog post that may not be world-class. It may not be a Paul Graham essay about startups, but pretty good. It's passable. The language is great. If you customize it with some voice knowledge docs, if you customize it with some inputs, pretty good. It's not like top tier, but that means there's going to be a lot of saturation, supply and demand, right? So we're going to have to reallocate our attention and figure out what is high signal, what's worth paying attention to. And I want to say that that's not just true on SEO. That's all platforms. Anywhere you can create and distribute content is going to face this tragedy of the commons saturation problem. Couple caveats. Also read this book. It's amazing. It was written in 2007. And this idea of the brain dead megaphone is essentially that if you're at a party and having all these nuanced discussions and somebody brings in a megaphone and starts just yapping about like the most simplistic shit, everybody they're forced to pay attention to that. And if they want their voices heard, then they have to also get megaphones. And this was pre-social media. So all my point is to say here is that if you get all of your information from these social platforms that reward attention and not necessarily the density of the information or the signal, you're liable to get swept away by hyperbole. So it's interesting to find info and ideas there, but constantly I'm calibrating that with the reality of the market, our customers and our clients and our data, and I'm often finding gaps. So use it as one data source. If you hear AI is replacing everything, or AI can't do this or that, or whatever, like extremely salacious take it with a grain of salt. Because SEO, bread and butter SEO, in fact, like the boring, simple playbooks, they're still printing money for many of our clients in many different industries. So the point here is don't get tilted. Rely on your own critical thinking, first principles, experimentation, and trustworthy data if you have access to it. Okay, so what's out, what's in 2025? I also just want to say that we've got the receipts here that we warned you that you shouldn't copy HubSpot's playbook. This is my co-founder, David, his LinkedIn post here. We've been saying this for years. So what's out? Skyscraper technique, 10x content. Not the idea itself of creating like world-class stuff, but the way most people understood it, which is essentially take a popular topic, an ultimate guide of sorts, write 10,000, 20,000, just an insane amount of words, build some links and arbitrage that into traffic. That doesn't really work anymore. Top of the funnel, I know there's a lot of different definitions of that depending on your industry and role. What I mean here is essentially definitional. What is content marketing? What is message testing? That's just kind of been taken away by quick answers, feature snippets, ChatGPT. Like, in fact, in the past, most people probably weren't incredibly high intent audiences searching for that. But nowadays, it's not even showing up in your data, so that's probably out. Probably MQLs. That's a different talk, though. I'm just hearing that a lot in my conversations with clients and marketing leaders. Clean and clear attribution, which was always sort of a myth, but nowadays it's just murkier and murkier with communities, IRL, dark social, and these AI tools. Like the information and customer journey kind of discovery process is just getting so much more complicated, and there's so much less data to actually linearly track it. And then finally, generic or median level quality content, especially written by sort of non-experts that cover a wide range of topics outside of their expertise. Again, I don't think that ever really worked, but it did in terms of a traffic generation standpoint. Now you're seeing that fade away as well. What's in? These are the 5 topics that I'm going to cover today. The who behind the content, invoking practices like founder brand, organic social, basically how can you signal your expertise? How can you index on hard to fake signals, and specifically around who is speaking the message? A renewed customer obsession. So strategies built on the base layer and bedrock of ICP insights and voice of customer data, which I think Wynter is going to be stoked to hear that. Product-led SEO, which has always been around, but I think it's emergently valuable. So experiences that you can create in a low friction, scalable way that solve your ICP needs and actually map to product use cases and features. Original research, and then surround sound SEO strategy. This is going to be jam-packed, so I'm just going to try to bulldoze through it. There's going to be a lot of tactical takeaways and hopefully some questions here that I want to note. First off, True Detective, amazing show. Second off, the quote around time is a flat circle. A lot of this stuff I actually worked on in many first principles ways at CXL. There was a whole period between then that I think the SEO world got a little crazy, got over our skis, but a lot of this is actually going to resemble kind of past tactics that worked really well. Okay, so the who behind the content, LinkedIn go-to-market. You all know that it's important. I'm not the foremost expert here. There are much better people at LinkedIn, frankly, than I am, including Pep, including Dave Gerhardt, Adam Robinson, all the people that you see go viral all the time on the platform. But it's an incredibly important channel, especially for early stage founders who are creating a movement, creating demand. And also I should rewind and say that every one of these I'm going to frame with an insight from a conversation that I've had with either a client or a marketing leader. And then I'm going to explain who it's best for and then give case studies. So you get actually evidence on these things. So the insight is from Kleiner Perkins, somebody who works with their portfolio companies, said, you know, if everybody's saying the same thing, message saturation, you got to have a founder who gets out there and beats the drum on why these things matter and what the vision is. So early stage growth acceleration and demand creation. One of our clients is wonderful at this. Chad's got like 100,000 followers on LinkedIn or something. The rest of his team also has a ton of followers. And he'll write these really technical, essentially blog posts, really long, and they go viral. It's like thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, and they're all pushing this this narrative, this new POV on data quality that people don't necessarily have a ton of salience or awareness of yet. So the search play is still nascent. Now, what our role is to combine that with the synergistic SEO play and capture some of those terms early so we ride the wave as they create the demand, and then also establish our footprint on pillar pages that are related to that data quality, data contracts paradigm with known terms that people already search. So it's sort of a combinatory play. How do you accelerate efficiency here? Again, I'm not the expert on going viral, on writing hooks. I'm in fact so bad at it that I had to create a custom GPT that was trained on really good formats. And I essentially pull, you know, we do a podcast every week. We do a newsletter every week. I essentially pull my takes from those because I do long form content, pull those into a custom GPT that's trained on my voice and then all those formats. And then I use that to sort of like craft my structure. But one really cool thing you can do here is you can amplify with paid spend. And we actually just landed a few months ago our biggest client to date through these directly, actually. We can see it in the attribution. So this stuff really does work. All right, number 2, ICP grounded, ICP centric SEO strategy. So this is still going to be the forefront of SEO. It can apply to any channel, but the core point here is that you're basing it in the ICP voice of customer insights and not necessarily the channel data. And specifically that contrast with the old way, which was to look at Ahrefs to identify your top competitors in search, find which keywords they were ranking for that you weren't, look at the top traffic terms, write content that's maybe 200 words more or a little better, build some links, and then profit. It was kind of a mess in terms of like a theory. The smarter way that I believe to do things is to sort of have this trifecta model where you start with the ICP research. That forms your base layer, your surface area of all relevant topics. Nothing goes outside of that. It's a pretty expansive space. And then that next layer, you layer on your product, your jobs to be done, your features, anything that you can do to help accomplish or solve those problems that you've identified from your ICP. And then finally use SEO or channel data to stack rank those priorities and to optimize for distribution. And the insight here is that one of our clients said, you know, too many people think from the channel outside. They start with the channel as the first service layer, not from the customer backwards to the channel. And this is really good for anybody creating content. I actually think it applies for all stages, all industries. How? This is an incredibly detailed slide, but basically you've got internal and external sources of data that you can use. You're probably familiar with this if you're in a Wynter webinar. The best case is I love pulling sales transcripts and gong calls. I use day.ai for this. A lot of my content creation actually comes directly from that. If you can't access it directly, talk to your sales and product marketing teams to triangulate this data. And if possible, sit in on or review recordings of user interviews. Otherwise, there's so much external data you can capture nowadays. Mining forums and communities. A lot of this we used to do at CXL, actually. Identifying popular conference talks, reviewing presentation themes, conducting ICP surveys through Wynter or your own outreach, interviewing external SMEs and figuring out what's top of mind for them. And then SparkToro is this really cool tool that I like to use in conjunction with Ahrefs and classic SEO tools. And then use AI to analyze all that qual data. You can see a little screenshot here from one of my recent marketing leader interviews, which our whole co-founder team is embarking on right now to get real market research data. But I would say 75% plus of my LinkedIn content is based on these interviews and sales calls that I've had. We also upload knowledge docs that include our messaging and brand frameworks and also our ICP information that would include more static data like what their job title is and what their industry is. And then we build prompt chains and SOPs that actually extract that data. And then we upload that into an SEO tool like Ahrefs to quantify maybe the search volume, look at the intent, look at the difficulty, and then just rinse and repeat over time. All right, number 3, product-led SEO and experiences. And I say experiences because this is not content in the typical sense. It's more of a product. Classic example, right? This has worked for a long time. I think it works more nowadays, and it's more AI-proof than anything else because it embeds your product functionality into an SEO or a distribution channel. Zapier is a classic example of this. They built an integrations library before it was popular to do so, and many people tried to copy them. But you had a job to be done, right? I want to integrate Google Sheets with HubSpot. I want to integrate MailChimp with Marketo, right? So there's like a million variants of this, and their product does this specific thing. So they created that, great SEO distribution, great product kind of conversion levers, et cetera. The insight here is from Craft Ventures, which said Portfolio Co. launched a marketplace version of their product, which SEO is a huge driver for. So they rank for some incredibly hard keywords like Zoom info, pricing. How? Well, their product's a marketplace for buying software, so it's a perfect match. And this doesn't work for everybody. You have to have a real undermet ICP need. It's probably best for product-led and low-friction conversion points and large total addressable market products. Horizontal products like Zapier work really well for this. We've got 2 client cases, one more enterprise and one early stage kind of product-led. Avoxy did this with, they're essentially a cloud voice provider. A lot of people come in point solution looking for different phone numbers. So you've got this page that says Singapore virtual phone number. You can sign up right there for the product, get your virtual number. And then the progress here, which is they rank for that core keyword and then several kind of different variants, longer tail. And then this earlier stage one, they don't have like a huge brand or a powerful domain rating, but it's still working for them, which is they have this really lively community who is creating templates within their product. They thought that was cool, asked us to kind of identify different keywords that associate with those templates. And then they flipped it outside, built a templates library that was optimized for search, and then sort of collated these and categorized them under broad themes like mobile app design templates and then specific mobile app design templates underneath that. Also, it's early stage, but they're doing really well already. Tons of new keyword rankings and then really great conversion data as well. It's a pretty detailed slide, but the main thing that I want to push home here is that a lot of people come to us wanting programmatic SEO, but what they really want is a really cheap way to produce content at scale, and they don't really think about that first point here, which is like, is this a real thing that people actually want? Is this an actual need that your ICP cares about, right? And that's why Zapier worked. It's not because of any like meta descriptions or internal linking or surface level things. It's because it met like a real need that people didn't solve for yet. So that was really the heart of it. And then you got to make sure your product has this capability, right? Which Zapier did, Avoxy does, Create does. Is there sufficient search TAM? That's kind of the next step we look for. The cool thing is here, you don't need one page to sort of have 5,000, 10,000 people searching for it every month if there's enough permutations of it. So survey templates alone may have 100 people searching for it, but there's 100 or 1,000 different types of survey templates you could use. So at scale, it really works. And that's the beauty of some of these plays. And then finally, technical feasibility. I ran into many interesting cases when I was in-house where it was all of the three aforementioned points were there, but it was so incredibly complicated on the product and engineering standpoint that just the risk reward kind of ROI calculation wasn't there. So some are very easy, some are very hard. You've got to calculate that in your equation as well. All right, original research and data. Y'all do a bunch of this at Wynter. You've seen this all over the place. Unique data. What can AI not do? Well, it can't really calculate unique data from your product, from your audience, from market research, et cetera. And people are starved for data, especially in, I would say, fast-moving industries with a lot of chaos and noise, and particularly for businesses with high ACV customers, because this is a really wonderful kind of lead generation play as well. It gets people in the middle of the funnel, and it gives you information that you can sort of extrapolate and use in different content formats, from blog posts to social media to webinars like this, right? I'm using my insights from my marketing leader interviews right here, right now. VC from Craft Ventures said, you need unique value, something cool, like a piece of data you publish annually or quarterly. So we got two case studies here, one from Jasper. Obviously, AI is incredibly fast-moving space. In 2023, it was a little bit, I would say, newer in terms of like the general market perception. So we wanted to understand how AI was used in businesses. This drove links, MQLs, provided insights for all their other kind of content assets and formats. And it was a wonderful digital PR seed asset to kind of get talking points on the market. And then Vendor did this really cool one as well, which is they leverage their own product data to build an interactive experiential data report, which is just a wonderful experience scrolling through there compared to most static blog content. The best ways to do this, your ideal case is product tie-in or using your own first-party data. Pep just did this in a really cool way, doing that CMO interview survey. Ahrefs does this quite a bit with their own SEO data. And then SparkToro also has quite a few of these. SparkToro actually does all types of research really well. I think it's still very valuable if you can go out and ask a bunch of people in your ICP. We've done this for several clients. Here's kind of a behind-the-scenes report the survey that we built in Polefish. Superpath does these annual content marketer survey reports that are wonderful. And then still pretty good is if you can aggregate a bunch of public data, especially if there's like kind of loose narrative scattered all over the place, and you just want like one cohesive way to say, this is what's happening in AI. This is what's happening in 2025 for top online success strategies. And what's happening with Google? Are they losing, search market share? And then Rand pulled together a bunch of different data points to kind of tell that story. So really good stuff there. And then surround sound SEO is the last point. This is something that I worked on at HubSpot. I think it was an amazing idea then, and I think it's even more important now as everybody's talking about the importance of brand. Okay, so SEO typically in the traditional paradigm is all about ranking your page for a high traffic and high intent keyword. So that would be in this screenshot, Persephone is ranking their page. The surround sound SEO strategy is saying like, all right, let's look at the total surface area for the most high intent buying stages and topics, and let's saturate that, and let's dominate real estate. So essentially, let's be mentioned in every single one of these lists. So let's identify all of the topics, the product category phrases that people would search when they're in market, and let's be everywhere. This could apply to search, but it also applies to kind of wherever people are making decisions. You see authors do this with podcasts when they go on book tours and they're on 25 different podcasts that have similar audiences. You just hear them all over the place. And I've got a nice quote from Pep here from an old article that he wrote on CXL's blog. I think even maybe before I worked there, which is people comparison shop, stupid, right? So when somebody's searching for this, they're most likely compiling a list that they may show their boss or their stakeholders. And if you're not present on any of them, you're not in the conversation. But if you're only present on one, you don't really have that ubiquity and the salience. But if you're on every single one, people have this perception of trust and ubiquity, like you're an obvious tool, you're an obvious CRM, you're an obvious carbon accounting software. So this is really key for products in mature search spaces. You kind of need enough people to know what phrases and what solutions they're searching for. So I would say this is kind of like the opposite side of the spectrum to the LinkedIn go-to-market and early stage category creation, demand creation efforts. We've got two cases. One, Persephone, kind of building in the carbon accounting space. Started with zero SEO and content program. So full kind of green space, no pun intended. They built content, created their own blog post to claim some real estate there, which is great because we can own the convo. Leverage partnerships with known entities and people that we could get placements on their lists. Looked into UGC and review sites, figured out a strategy to kind of capitalize on those. And then we drove high saturation across 5. So it was really focused across 5 key product category SERPs related to climate tech. And then we're our own case study here. So I built a custom data tool to audit and track our SERP real estate. We've got probably 20 or so keywords that relate to best SEO agencies, best organic growth agencies, best digital PR agencies. We always write our own lists. We partner with other agencies who are, I would say, frenemies, and we try to saturate those as well. And again, like proof is in the pudding, we acquired our second largest client via, we could analyze this in the data too, via a partner's mention of us in a best content marketing agencies listicle. So I almost hesitate to say this stuff because it still works really well. And the cool thing now is that people are actually latching onto this because they're thinking, how do we optimize for AI? For how do we get into ChatGPT? And my bullet points here are a little sarcastic and cheeky, but no one really knows. Many claim to know. We do know, and we'll tell you a secret for a small fortune. Actually, that's not true at all. It's still the Wild West, but we are correlating some small patterns in data. And it seems like a lot of traditional search practices are actually parlaying into LLM inclusions. If you're ubiquitous on the web, if you have brand mentions all over the place, if you have your own great content, that's a good seed to get into these citations, specifically when they give the citations like these here. And your brand ubiquity, especially in kind of highly credible, highly authoritative sources, seems to position you for these queries in LLMs as well. So my whole point here is not to say like optimize for LLMs, drop everything else you're doing. This is like the playbook. I would say do the surround sound play because it's obvious and makes sense today that you should be ubiquitous for those search categories. And it also may set you up for tomorrow. So it's sort of riskless if you have a high search, kind of like a high salient space like this. How to do the surround sound SEO is actually incredibly complicated. It's not traditional link building. It's not just content creation. It's sort of a blend between a bunch of different cross-functional programs like SEO. So figuring out which core product categories and keywords matter, triangulating those with your product marketing team and strategy teams to say, we really care about CRM, but we really, really care about small business CRM. That's where we want to compete. So let's prioritize that as kind of the surface area that we play in. Then you go out and audit and figure out your current SERP real estate. You may be 0% in some, looking at the top 20, top 30 search results, you may be highly saturated in some others. And then you basically prioritize which ones you want to go after. And if there's no content that you've produced, low-hanging fruit, right? Product pages, listicles for the win. The next lowest hanging fruit is to identify friendly people who already rank. So if you are, if you're EPO or an experimentation platform and you're friends with Hotjar, and Hotjar's got a list, and you're kind of not competitive, then you can reach out to Hotjar and be like, hey, like, can we get on your list? We'll put you on ours, right? And then consider partnering, if none of those are applicable, partnering with high DR sites to write new guest posts. You can even build links to those if you really wanted to. But the point is here, you've got to be a high agency, get shit done type person to sort of buy, borrow, cajole, persuade your way to get onto these lists. There's a million different tactics here, and I can't really boil it down to one simple playbook. But all right, that's the surround sound SEO strategy. And those are the 5 tactics that I'm seeing work incredibly well in 2025 and beyond. I'm here for questions. Look at that. That was exactly 30 minutes.
You nailed it. Whoa. Ooh. I'm in the corner for you. Here, let's try this. There we go. Awesome. I learned a lot. I was taking notes the whole time. My trusty old pen. And then I realized I'm probably just going to take the transcript of this, upload it to O1 Pro. Give me the 12 insights that I need to know from Alex's strategy. Write me a playbook and do all the work for me so I can check out to a very cold beach up here in Canada. If you have any questions for Alex, we'd love to answer them for you. And there's hundreds of people here. Surely somebody has a Q&A. I know there was one question, and I'm going to make sure I get these from you. Folks wanted to make sure they get the slides. So if you can send them over, we'll PDF those up and get them out with the
Yep, I can send the slides.
recording.
I can also add some additional links too on some of the more complex plays like the surround sound. I know that.
Yeah, that'd be great. If you've got some
whole
meat you can
presentation
add
I've
to
done
that.
in the past.
Perfect. That's fantastic. Maria asked a question around budget. So what are the budget and the people/resources you need for a strategy like this?
It depends on the strategy. I would say like the lowest budget strategy is the LinkedIn go-to-market. And if you're doing organic social, because you can just sort of do things, you could just start, creating content. For product-led SEO, there's like kind of a range. I would say that is sometimes one of the more expensive plays because you need design and engineering resources. You need to, in some cases, integrate the product. So if, for example, SurveyMonkey does these wonderful, or they used to, I may be dating myself, but they used to do these like survey templates, and you would sign up for a customer satisfaction survey. And when you sign up for the product, it would actually put that survey into your first kind of user experience. That's expensive. There's other plays like where it's essentially a landing page, like those virtual number pages that it's a little bit cheaper. SEO strategy, if you're doing kind of editorial content, I would say ranges like the earlier starting points you can get in for like, $5K a month. If you have like a good SEO strategist, a content marketer who can produce high quality stuff. Yeah, I think it's such a range, and some of this you can bootstrap and get off the ground yourselves. In other cases, you may want to hire in-house or an agency, just depending on like, your knowledge set and your opportunity cost for doing other things. I think if you're incredibly charismatic and have strong points of view and you're a founder, like you should do the LinkedIn stuff yourself. Like, I think that's probably high leverage for you. If you're not, consider augmenting or getting a ghostwriter for a lower cost.
Awesome. Speaking about LinkedIn, Karin asked a great question around the tactical details you can share, SEO specific to founder brand building on LinkedIn. I don't know, in my experience, how much SEO specific stuff you can share about this, but there is, I'm sure, tips you've got because you are a founder and you do really great brand building, as is David. What are your thoughts here?
I never actually think I'm that good at it. Like I'm not good at like capturing like big amounts of like impressions and attention and whatnot. But I think what we've done really well is hammered in on like the ICP pain points. We've honed in our messaging. We never used to do that well, by the way. We used to be pretty scattershot and just kind of write about like whatever we felt that day. And over the last year, we realized that was probably inefficient. And also it was causing us to be, we would go on these like fits and starts where we get really excited and write passionately, and then we'd just fall apart and like we wouldn't write for 3 or 4 months. So having like an upfront framework helped us a lot. We hired this guy, Finn McKenty, who is amazing. He sort of took our chaos and structured it into something that we could use. And he's like, write about these things in the top of the funnel, write about these things in the middle of the funnel, and then bottom of the funnel, just post case studies and whatnot. So it gave us a framework. And then through all of these like sales calls and marketing leader interviews that we're doing, we just sort of take the pain points that people are talking about and try to answer them in the best possible way. But what that's done is it's attracted like a small and niche and highly valuable audience, and not a very wide one. And that's really good for us because when we're on, when we're in the sales process, we add people on LinkedIn and they see that content. And I think conjecture, I don't have the data here, but I think it speaks to what we're talking about and their pain points in the calls. So if anything, it gives us a little bit of a leg up in the sales process. And then what we could do is we could do remarketing using those listicles, assuming that people are searching for best SEO agencies are in market. And then we could do additional targeting on LinkedIn with those thought leader ads and sort of do a combinatory play. So that's kind of how we're using it. But I would say I'm not like the expert. Like Pep is more of an expert in the founder brand stuff.
Yeah, I used to pay close attention in my time before Wynter. I was at Refined Labs, and of course, Chris Walker is one of the LinkedIn people in our space. He's very good at it. One of the things I noticed as the account exec there, though, is I would chat with people who would say, "Oh yeah, I saw all these posts by Chris," and I would think, "I've never seen you in the comments," or like I pay attention to this stuff as a sales rep. And what I heard a lot of the times, I don't really engage. I just see, read. So just keep in mind, if you're doing a founder play like that, and you mentioned yourself, I don't get a lot of engagement. I don't see the big numbers. You're not necessarily doing numbers on LinkedIn with the people that matter. They might see your content in the feed and think, okay, you know what, this person's building a lot of rapport and trust with me, but it's not a two-way street when it comes to the engagement. So keep that in mind. Justin had a question that he asked in the chat. SEO has a pretty mature ecosystem, but AI, not so much. What tools or analytics are you using to measure your performance in ChatGPT and other AI-led plays, Perplexity, etc.?
We're still in the early stages there. There's two tools. I think it was like Night Watch or something like that, and then Profound are building in this space. I haven't gotten access yet to Profound, but it claims to track your mentions and appearances in a way that's not just referral traffic to your website from ChatGPT or Perplexity. I can't speak to the veracity or accuracy of that. They even quantify kind of the amount of people searching for, I don't know how they do this, but similar topics, right? And so how many people in ChatGPT are searching for something resembling best SEO agencies? So I think this is kind of an emerging, it's really the Wild West, and there probably will be tools. At this point, we're doing it in very simple ways. Like we're setting up in our stock dashboards kind of a view that showcases like LLM referral traffic. And then for those core product category terms, we're just like spot checking and seeing if they appear when we search for those things, in conjunction with kind of the surround sound when that's on the plate for our engagements. But it's still the Wild West. And I think to one of my first points on the clean and clear attribution, like there's kind of a need to operate with a little bit more faith nowadays, and just assume that like you're kind of like moving directionally, the right way, kind of looking at lagging indicators for overall programs versus like micro touch point attribution. And that includes like your point on LinkedIn, the person who's been lurking and has been seeing your content for the past 6 months but hasn't engaged and didn't even on self-reported attribution say they found you on LinkedIn. Like it's probably still a valuable thing to be there. In the same sense that's kind of how I'm viewing like the LLM stuff. It's like, even if we can't crystal clear view like every single touch point, like the things that we're doing that seem to parlay into that as like an information and product discovery play are probably still valuable. So
yeah, 100%. At times, attribution just goes dark at the snap of fingers. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure a lot of the people that are still here remember when we lost all our keywords in Google Analytics. All of a sudden, it was like, not provided. Like, what?
Yep.
What now? So we were operating. You shut the lights off on the ship, turn out the headlights, and take over and start navigating using your skill set. So you're going to have to go by gut feel for a little while. Use those qualitative indicators, and make sure. If you're not already doing this, Alex made a really great point about self-reported attribution. We use it here at Wynter, right? We ask, how did you hear about us at our main checkpoints when you engage with our product or engage with our sales team? And we map all of them and just keep an eye on it. So something for sure, if people are saying, hey, I heard about you in ChatGPT, then, or I saw you in Perplexity, then it's something you need to pay attention to. We should be paying attention to it already.
I would say we're seeing a lot more of that too, just qualitatively with our clients as well as ourselves. Like we've had several leads come through that say they found us in ChatGPT or something like that. Yeah. So you do get small signals. I would just say like the precision is not going to be near 100%, but those small signals do tell a story too. And I think there's alpha in, like, if something is incredibly easy to track and it's incredibly salient, like there's going to be a larger pool of competition. And there is alpha in going to places where there's not as obvious attribution or tracking systems.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a couple of questions here on Reddit, so I'm going to knock them out together one by one here. So Kimberly asked, with the surround sound play, how are you checking off the Reddit box without getting penalized for promoting?
I don't know. That's like a hard, I'm not an expert there. I think like I don't even know how much I want to talk about this. I used to game Reddit in really kind of gray hat ways, like back in, I don't know, 2014 through 2016. Not for the surround sound strategy, but when I was working at a early stage tech company, and we were using it to basically just build links and like kind of go viral on some of our content. And we did like just, bought a bunch of accounts and had bots and all that stuff and like seeded a bunch of debates. And I don't think that probably works anymore. So I'm sure there's like a much whiter hat way to do things. Like maybe you could leverage, I'm just thinking out loud, like maybe you could leverage your own kind of community, get in on like nascent topics. I think if you, what's that called when you have a bunch of people who are not part of the community and they go over to the community and post all of a sudden brigading or something like that.
Brigading. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's probably like if you have a 2-year-old post about like the best customer satisfaction software, and all of a sudden 2 years later, a bunch of people are like, "Oh, you got to try this tool. You got to try this tool." It's like, you know. So I don't know, some sense of like social listening to get in on those early. I think you could probably be somewhat transparent and authentic if it's like you as like a person from that company posting about it.
Yeah, that's the key that I've seen as well. I think if you're starting from scratch, in my experience, you got to participate in the community first to build a little bit of credibility, and you should be already. If you don't have someone, if you have a subreddit that is very specific to your ICP that you're not participating in, it used to be like the same thing with Stack Overflow or GitHub or anything like that for developer-led companies, right? You want to have your devs in there participating in the community and building trust and awareness, rather than trying to be that person that comes to the Chamber of Commerce once a year is like, hey, everyone buy insurance from me, because it's creepy and off-putting when you see some, like you said, one person coming and doing it is just like whatever. If you get a brigade of people coming and doing it, that makes no sense as well. So then it just is creepy en masse rather than creepy in person. I will say as well, to add to your point, there is the surfacing this can be challenging for people using Reddit as well. Reddit Answers is coming out. I don't know if it's rolled out to everybody, but they've got finally LLM trained on like the body of Reddit that you can go in and do some searching on to get to surface topics where you should be participating. Also, there's I don't know if you've heard of the tool Gummy Search is one that I know of. I'm sure there's others. And what that does is just monitors all the subreddits. So you can have like, it's like a Google Trends or Google Answers for specific subreddits or specific queries. So it will follow and watch and do monitoring for you, and then alert you to, hey, you know what, you should be participating in this topic, because the surfacing of places that you should be participating can be challenging, right? It's maybe it's not just subreddit. Maybe there's Q&A that you should be answering questions or whatever about your product. So keep that in mind as well. The other question about Reddit is, I think actually we kind of touched on this, was Chris asking, given that Reddit's getting increasingly prevalent in Google, how to best participate or increase your presence in a scalable way. It's a community and they sniff you out very fast, Chris. So Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything else, but all I would say is, in my experience, don't try and scale a really poor participation on Reddit.
Yeah.
Like if you're just going to show up and have an AI agent that's trying to spam LLM generated answers, I would just avoid that entirely. You embarrass your brand. What do you think?
And you got to think in terms of like there are arbitrage windows like this, but things shift and change. And like usually it's a cat and mouse game with the platform, like kind of plugging a hole with like a short-term solution that will eventually have another hole. And it seems like if everybody kind of realizes, oh, we can just like at scale, like use LLMs to comment our brand on Reddit, they're going to patch that up eventually. And maybe in the short term, like that'll be valuable. But like, I don't know. I always think first principles, like if it's like kind of scarcity approximates to value, and the opposite is like if there's a ton of supply, so like it's a supply of a bunch of competitors doing the same thing, like there's not going to be a competitive advantage to doing so. So if it's incredibly easy for you to do, it's also going to be incredibly easy for everybody else to do. So maybe if you're fast enough, you can get like that short-term arbitrage opportunity. But yeah, I don't think there's like a quick do this at scale way. And also like, yeah, you kind of alluded to this, but like Reddit's pretty skeptical, probably to a fault, but like, it's like, you're more likely to have a backfire effect on that. Now, Quora, I think, is a total dumpster fire. I can't believe that they're actually getting visibility in SERPs. That was always the worst site, like for actual answers. And it blows my mind that like that's something that like seems to be a solve for Google's quality problem. So maybe you could just pump a bunch of shit content on Quora and that'll work. But
which is funny too, because you would think that like, I'm with you. I've seen a very limited value in the answers that I get at Quora. Stack Overflow, on the other hand, is someone who's not a very good coder. I used to use all the time, and it has just jumped off a cliff.
Oh, really?
Similar to the HubSpot chart. It is. Yeah, it's in serious trouble when it comes to search traffic, because I haven't asked it a question in 2 years. I'll be candid with you. I used to love that site, and now I'm like GPT at all times. So I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I again, just given the quality, I was surprised to see Quora being the one that Google chose as the chosen one for human generated content, because it's at times I question the answers. Okay, Steven asked, this is a really good question. I thought about this as well. So tips for the surround sound SEO to do outreach to relevant sites when you don't have a PR budget or your PR team won't share their ball.
Okay, so no PR budget. I actually think that's fine. Like if I got an outreach email from a PR agency, I'd probably ignore it. But if I got an outreach email from a founder or even somebody from the company, I would be more likely to respond. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I always just think like, what's in it for me, and not me, like, but the person that I'm emailing, because nobody's going to give me just free placement. So in some cases, like I've just built enough relationships where I've got a couple other, friends who run agencies, and they've either done this play as well, or they are open to it, and I can just talk to them and be like, hey, let's collaborate a little bit, and that's just because we have a relationship. And then in other cases, I'm like, all right, well, if this is an unknown person, how can I at least provoke a conversation that gives me the information that I need, that lets me know what they want? And sometimes it's stupid. It's like they just want money, It's like, and and sometimes like people know the value of those placements. And I'm not saying go buy a bunch of links, but like, yeah, I bought a couple placements on lists, and if it's like they undervalue it, I'm like, oh, okay, like I'm definitely going to buy that. And that's kind of the old affiliate play too, is like a lot of, I would say like Jasper, one of their big strengths early on, before they kind of shifted to enterprise, was they had a really effective affiliate marketing play. And because they were like AI writing, AI content, they had a lot of bloggers who use the tool, and these bloggers would write about Jasper. So there was this really natural win-win incentive structure to getting all those placements, and they crushed in terms of like being on top of all those lists, because they had one of the most generous affiliate programs. But yeah, it's thinking like, what is the incentive structure that would cause somebody to stop what they're doing that day, pop into like Webflow or WordPress, and change the list that they've created to like add me on it. And like an outreach email from a PR agency that's like 10 paragraphs long is probably not going to do the trick. So that's what I meant when I said you got to be like kind of high agency and scrappy, is you got to figure that stuff out. And there's no real like one shot, like linear, like do this, if this, then do that. It's really just figuring out like what's in it for me, for that other person.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to your notes here is that way early on in my content marketing career, I mean, more than 10, 12 years ago now, I had a content agency called Gravy Train. And part of what we did is we sold guest blog posts, and we did the outreach. There was platforms, it was early like email, and we had humans that had to do it. And the thing that I always train the team on is that you have to get good at presenting the bi-directional value exchange, right? I'm going to get something, even if I'm giving you money, that's still a lot of times not enough. The person, as you mentioned, they have to go in, they have to change something, to add a new page in WordPress. They got to pull links out, add links in. They got, we're asking them to like change the no follow status. So like, you got junior people that have no idea what you're talking about now, or you've got senior people who are concerned about the ramifications of doing things, as part of this relationship or agreement that you've created with them. So just consider that bi-directional value exchange. You're going to get exactly what you're asking for. So you really got to make sure you sweeten the pot to the person on the other side and de-risk the deal. This isn't a situation where you're just buying links off of online marketplaces. This is a person's website, potentially their livelihood. And if things go wrong, you see what happens when Google makes algorithm changes, right? Things can be disastrous for people doing stuff like this. So keep that in mind. On this topic,
sorry, real quick, it reminds me of that BJ Fogg behavior model, which I kind of always go back to, is like a persuasive or like psychological principle, which is like two axes of like motivation and then kind of ease or friction. And it's like, if motivation is extremely high, like people will jump over hoops to do something. But if motivation is lower, you have to make it easier to do that thing. So I think that completely applies in all outreach, like, sales, like link building, like whatever kind of outreach, whatever ask you're doing. It's like, gauge like their motivation to do that thing, and then calibrate your, friction to correspond to that.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you get the balance right. We still have a couple minutes for questions here, so I'll grab a couple more. Patrick asked, it's on a similar note, around tips for syndicating content to larger publications. Have you done any type of newsjacking? How to identify the topics that'll get picked up easily, and then the approach to get them in front of editors of high DR publications? The one thing I will share before you answer this question is that you mentioned as well, us here at Wynter, what we do is we lead with ICP research, right? So one of the things you'll find, Patrick, is that if you have access to information that other people don't, then you're going to be able to get it to other people to use. There's lots of great examples of this as you scroll LinkedIn that you'll see in the feed, where people they have data that no one else can get. And then if you can visualize it or transform it in a way that provides meaning, then it won't just be interested CEOs who look at it. You might be able to get it in front of people at Bloomberg or TechCrunch or whoever the publications are for your industry. Alex, what have you seen that's worked in your experience for getting data or syndicating content to top tier publications?
Yeah, all of what you said is true. I think you have to have an interesting story and novel data. So it's like if you don't have that, the distribution and syndication is going to be limited or fall flat. And then for the actual syndication, we do some limited like targeted link building and outreach, but for the most part, we actually just partner with and refer out to Stacker Media, who specializes specifically in legacy media. We work much more in the ecosystem of like tech companies and different blogs in the space. But if you want to get like local newspapers or larger websites or like, I don't even know what's popular nowadays, like Fast Company and stuff like that, we just partner with companies who have those networks, and we'll create like the data story, and we'll do the content strategy around that. And then they've got the network. So it just distributes out to those people. So who, not how,
Who, not how. If we could sum it up right there, it's who, not how. Yeah, having that network is really tough. And if you can build those relationships over time without trying to pitch or do anything, then when the pitch comes, they'll be a lot more receptive to receiving it for sure. Mm-hmm. Zachary asked a question. I know I skipped a couple. I'm very sorry. We'll do the best we can the few minutes we have left. But he asked a question that I think is on a lot of people's minds, which is, what are your thoughts on using AI to significantly scale your SEO content, particularly first-person point of view content? So where AI does the heavy lifting and then humans refine it and polish it. So Zachary mentioned pros and cons, but I'd love just your take on this and how it can be done, or if it can be done.
I guess I'd have to understand what first person point of view means in that context. I'm going to read it in like the most optimistic light, which is like it's kind of your inputs and ideas, and you're using AI to essentially structure that in a conducive way to, I guess, like rank and search. And I think that's a valid way to go about things. It's like you just don't want to do the lazy thing, because the lazy thing is easy, and if the easy thing is done by a lot of people, there's no competitive advantage. And we've seen just too many case studies or anti-case studies where somebody said, I'm just going to copy like, the sitemap or like the content gap analysis of our closest organic competitors and essentially rehash what they've done in like the most low effort way, and just use GPT to essentially like replicate all of that. Like just from first principles, why would that be valuable? And even if it is in a short-term way, like you can rank for it, like there's got to be like some long-term, like there's no moat in doing that. So I don't think that's a good strategy. We wrote a whole newsletter because we've actually had to clean up some of these situations. And I wrote, it was called Chicken Bones in the Garbage Disposal. So I had a friend who runs like a real estate property management company, and like one family just continually put chicken bones in the garbage disposal, and it was so expensive to eventually fix it. It's a very convenient thing to do in the near term, right? But over the long term, it's very expensive. I think it's really cool in the sense that if you have access to subject matter expert insights and novel data, and maybe you're not like the best writer, or you don't understand the format that well, and you can train it on what good looks like for a format and for a distribution channel, but you're fueling it with your unique data and takes, I think that can work. We're experimenting in some different ways of doing that with our own content, kind of middle of the funnel stuff. Early, I haven't tracked performance, and I don't feel confident in talking about that yet. But essentially, that's what I do with LinkedIn, right? I provide it with kind of the best approximation of my voice, which it still doesn't get, so I have to rewrite that often. But what I did is I trained it on what a good format looks like on LinkedIn. So I pulled people whose work that I admire, so like not clickbaity shit, but like Elena Verna and like growth marketers who write really quality stuff. I'm like, this is what a LinkedIn post looks like. And then I kind of reverse engineered what my LinkedIn posts are, which is kind of like core idea, story to back it up, data to back it up, and then a takeaway. And then I fuel it with stuff from my podcast, and I could just go into Riverside and pull a transcript section. So it's me talking about things that I know from my natural, experience working with clients. It's not ChatGPT making it up out of thin air or out of the corpus of knowledge of everybody else who's written about it. And then it just pulls it through that and puts it into that format. So I think that's a valuable way to sort of combine like the unstructured data synthesizing that GPT is great at with your unique takes and your unique alpha. but it's all about execution. Like it's a fine balance, right?
The one thing I'll add here is that in my experience in talking to marketers with this, it would behoove you very much to go and learn how instruct models work and are trained, because showing what good looks like is extremely important. And I don't find a lot of people doing that even when they engineer prompts or they dump in large bodies of content. You ask it a question, hey, tell me the insights from this massive whatever, but you have to tell the model what insights means and what good looks like and what insights you're looking for and how you want that format brought back to you. So what you've done is you've made sure it's not just write me a great LinkedIn post based on this transcript. It's here's what a great LinkedIn post looks like first. Now write me a great LinkedIn post based on this transcript. And if you understand, again, how these things are trained up, you can go and fine tune your own or have one of your development team take a crack at that for you or for the leadership in your company. And it'll be able to spool out content that's going to sound a lot more like what you're looking for, much easier. I'm going to give you the lightning round because we only have a couple minutes left. So maximum 15 to 20 seconds on each question. You ready?
Sure.
All right. When you're targeting people who are extremely specialized in their field and would not be brought in from top of funnel content, what are your recommendations?
What, 15 seconds? Like, come on.
You got this.
Send them emails.
All right. Cold outreach. I would also share, make sure your leadership is sharing their thoughts on LinkedIn, because they're going to be able to attract these people. Have someone go into Sales Navigator for your CEO, CFO, CTO, whomever the leader is, and start adding all of the other leadership in your ICP.
Oh, invite them to an IRL dinner. Yeah, do that.
Boom. Yeah. There you go. Do dinners, do in-person events, right? Get your leadership connecting. Remember, you mentioned extremely specialized in the field. Find other people who are extremely specialized and network them together. What's your take on demo-led SEO?
I don't know what demo-led SEO is.
I don't know what demo-led SEO is either. Pradeep, if you can answer that for us very quickly in the chat, I'll get a lightning round answer for you. Roger asked, the age-old question used to be whether you spend many hours and dollars on content to try and get attention or just pay for ads with all the dollar waste that means. In a startup, this is tough decisions, right? Has AI shifted the equation?
I can't answer that fully confidently, but I still see most of our market, and we're selection biased because we're an SEO and organic agency, who want to shift from paid to organic. I have a bias sample size, but paid is hard nowadays too. So I think all channels are hard nowadays. Yes,
that's exactly what I was going to say. I think the equation still remains that both of these are incredibly tough. And what you'll find is as there's some, I'm going to move my camera, as there's some imbalance in one place or the other, organic goes down, then paid, just everyone floods to it. Paid stops working, everyone floods back to organic. So you'll see these shifts and balances. You just got to roll with the tides, especially in your industry. Keep an eye. I don't like to follow competitors, but it's always worth your time keeping an eye on what everyone else is doing in your space. And the reason why I mentioned that is because you want to find the underpriced opportunity. That was what you just mentioned, right? Where do I find the underpriced attention in a startup? And if you look at what everyone else is doing, if they're all moving to the same spot, they're all doing Google search ads, then the bids are going to get very expensive for that small number of keywords that you're trying to bid on. You shouldn't be there, right? That's going to be overpriced.
Be underpriced, yeah. That's pretty much my mental model. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. I didn't see the update on what demo-led SEO is. I'm terribly sorry. I feel like both of us, we've been in this space a long time. If I don't know what that is and you don't know what that is, maybe we're behind the curve. I'm going to leave here and immediately go search what demo-led SEO is. Thank you very much, Alex. It's been fantastic. I know we went right up to the hour mark here, so I appreciate you sharing your time and everyone who stayed. We will send out the recording as well as the slide deck. Alex said he's going to add a little bit of meat to the slides as well as links. So it might not come out in the next hour or two, but I'll get it to you as soon as possible. We want to give Alex some time to touch it up. Otherwise, yeah, thank you. It's been great to have you, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll see you in just under 8 weeks, 2 months to go until spring.
I'm stoked. It's freezing here. I'm excited for the Austin March weather.
Yeah, we'll get into Austin, get some sunshine. See you later.